predicament of the Hindu is an endless cycle of sin, suffering, death, rebirth. The word in, I guess, is Hindi's samsara. So that's a word to know, is they're trying to break samsara. The only way to break samsara is to have 100% perfect karma. How do you get good karma? You do good things. So to answer your question, volunteering, doing good things, yes. 100% good karma or salvation or liberation from samsara, the word is moksh, M-O-K-S-H. That's like liberation. Like it could be translated salvation. So those two words are important in sharing the gospel. So to answer your good works question, that's what they're facing. That's what they're trying to do, is they're trying to gain good works so that their percentage of good karma goes up. But the predicament is you can never have 100% good karma because you've always done something bad that we would call sin. All right, so the question to how do I transition quickly to a spiritual conversation? It goes something like this. Hey, you do your introductions, blah, 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 and then you ask the question, what country are you from? Just because someone looks like they're from India doesn't mean they're from India, so it's okay to ask. If they say India, you already know the next question. Oh, what state? You want to be genuinely interested. Do a little geography quiz on India. Kind of know where the states are, the main cities in there. Okay, are you from this place? Are you from this place? This will go a long way in just building trust and relationship because you're legitimately saying, I'm interested. That's just common, right? That's not specific to Hindus. Then, this is the key transition question. Interesting. I always say interesting. I don't know why. Because I want to seem interested, and that's a goal. I've done a little bit of religious study on India. There's Muslims, Hindus, Buddhists, Sikhs, Christians, like all the world religions there. Jainism. Which are you? That's it. Identify the religious plurality from where they live and say, what are you? Because again, we don't want to make assumptions. We want them to identify. We're asking the question. Whatever they say, the very next statement or next question applies. Oh. So in, fill in the blank, in Hinduism, what have you learned about, oh, hold on, let me back up. One more phrase, because I see you writing notes. I found that most religions are really the same. We're all trying to please God and deal with their sin issue. Then the follow-up question is, in Hinduism, what have you learned about breaking the cycle of samsara? If it was a Muslim, what have you learned about how sin is dealt with in Islam? Remember, samsara is the result of sin. Sin, suffering, death, rebirth, reincarnation. And then they're gonna tell me, because all I've done is ask questions, right? Then, once they finish answering, I'm gonna say, well, thank you for sharing. Can I share with you how I've learned samsara can be dealt with? And if they say yes, guess what you do? You share the gospel. Does that make sense? So let's recap real quick. Where are you from? Great. What state are you from? Great. Man, there's a lot of religions there, right? Muslim, Hindu, Buddha. What are you? I found that most religions are really similar. We're all trying to please God and deal with our sin issue. In Hinduism, what have you learned? Because we're not asking for a definitive answer. We're asking, what have you learned about dealing with samsara? They say, oh, this is what we do. We do dharma. We try to get good karma, but we don't know. Okay, well, can I share with you what I've learned about how to deal with samsara? And then you're set up. Are you tracking? So, like we've just said, samsara, this endless cycle of misery, suffering, death, disappointment, it just keeps going and going and going. And we long for moksha. We long to be delivered from that, to be liberated. We long for salvation. We long so much, we try to do it on our own, don't we? For some of us, we just try to keep our dharma. We keep our responsibilities. We're trying to build good karma, but we can never have perfect karma. And so that's vain and pointless. For some of us, it's pursuing religious activities. For some of us, we just don't care. We're going to live the good life. We're going to drink, we're going to party, we're going to do whatever we want because we know that we will die and we will get to live this life again. The bad news is we can never have 100% good, pure karma. But in the very beginning, Bhagwan, God, Bhagwan, he created the heavens, the earth, and the world, and the sea, and he made trees. And where God was paradise, was heaven. And God created his most special creation, people. And in the beginning, the first people, they had perfect karma. There was no bad karma, so that there was a direct relationship with Bhagwan and man. But the story goes that a serpent came and deceived man. Deceived man to not carry out his dharma. Remember, dharma is responsibility. He didn't carry out his dharma to Bhagwan. Bhagwan had told them, this is what you should do. This is your dharma. The serpent deceived him. And so what happened is they committed pap. That was not keeping the dharma of Bhagwan. Pap is the word for sin. If you say sin, it kind of goes over their head a lot of times. And man and woman, they willfully ran from Bhagwan and perfect karma. And that's why we are stuck in this cycle of samsara. But Bhagwan, God, is loving. He doesn't desire for you or me to be stuck in samsara, death, misery, suffering. And so he provided a way. One from God came down to earth. He had 100% perfect karma. His name was Prabhu Yeshu, Lord Jesus. Prabhu Yeshu, he was special. He was the Sat Guru. It means true guru. The thing that the true guru must be able to do is show people the way from darkness to light. Prabhu Yeshu came to show people the way from darkness to light. Prabhu Yeshu could do miraculous signs. People who could never see, even from birth, he gave them sight. People who were lame and crippled, he gave them the ability to walk. Prabhu Yeshu was not a lover of money. You know, some religious leaders are lovers of money. He was not a lover of money. He was celibate. You may be thinking, why are these things important? Because in a Hindu's mind, a good guru are these things, and they're true about Jesus. So now you just talk about Jesus. Tell Jesus stories. Jesus is the centerpiece, right? So I'm not going to go, you can tell Jesus stories. Just brag on Jesus. That's all you got to do. If you want to actually tell a Bible story, tell a Bible story. Hey, at one time, Jesus was in a home with someone, and you just tell the story. But then you get back to, you know, whenever you go and you do puja at the temple, there's a coconut. And you break the coconut as an offering. Prabhu Yeshu came to be a sacrifice. On the outside, like the coconut, he was nothing much to look at. He was just a normal man, God who came in the flesh. But on the inside, like a coconut, he was pure white, showing his 100% pure karma. And whenever you do puja is like worship. Whenever you do puja and you break the coconut at the temple, what comes out? Pure water. Prabhu Yeshu's blood was spilled, pure. The people of his day condemned him for being innocent. There was another guy who was to be killed that same day, Barabbas. The people wanted Barabbas free. Prabhu Yeshu died in the place of Barabbas. But not just dying for Barabbas, he died for me and for you. So that if we turn from our way, and we trust Prabhu Yeshu, and we follow him, then his perfect karma can be applied to our lives. That's the only way that we can escape samsara, is with perfect karma. The beautiful thing is Prabhu Yeshu, he died, shed his blood, he died, but he did not stay dead. He came back to life. He walked with his disciples, and he told them, I'm going to prepare a place for you. Guess where that place is? Back with God, back with Bhagwan. So that whenever we turn and trust and we follow Prabhu Yeshu, and we make him the king of our life, then we come into a new family. And our whole family can be a part of that. So really, I have two questions. When will you ever have perfect karma to escape samsara? And the second question is, what's keeping you from taking the free gift that Prabhu Yeshu is offering of his pureness to give you 100% pure karma so that you can escape samsara? All right. I'm going to give a quick, high level, just here's the key changes. We're not talking about brokenness, we're talking about what? Samsara. We're not drawing a crack, we're doing what? Okay? This is pretty much the same. Creation, you don't have to draw like this if you don't want to, just talk about creation. If you want to know what this is, land, water, tree. Again, I'm adding all of these things because they're very experiential. Whenever you talk about land, water, sea, trees, beauty, it connects. Not necessary. We're just talking about God, that in the beginning there was perfect karma. What took us out of perfect relationship with God? Sin or pop. The drawing here, draw a cross if you want to. That doesn't matter. If you want to talk about the coconuts, you can, but that's just talking about Jesus. Just remember, this is talk about Jesus. If you remember anything, just talk about Jesus. Prabhu Yeshu just means Lord Jesus. Then call to action, turn, trust, follow, belong to a family, whatever language you want to get. The main thing is here. Because oftentimes you've probably heard in evangelism training, you got to get them lost. When we're talking about sin and brokenness, they're not getting lost. It's not connecting. You want to connect? Talk about samsara. Suffering, misery, sin, death. Over and over and over and over again. The other words to remember is moksha is salvation. Most people here, they're going to understand just your English words. But if you really just want to, get a heart connection, especially if Hindi is their first language, you may ask them, hey, what word do you use for liberation? What word? Then you can actually use them to help you tell it. That's the best way to do it. Yes?
Would you mind writing a couple of these words?
Yep.
Maybe like kind of the translation of it. I think it'd be super helpful, like samsara, moksha, prabhu yeshu.
Samsara, moksha, pray, Prabhu Yeshu. Okay, any other questions? Yes?
The name for God that you use.
Bhagwan. Yeah, so one thing I brought, this little booklet here is the Gospel of John in English with these terms replaced. So I have one right here. I have a whole case in my car. I just couldn't carry them in. So if you want multiple of these, you can have these. And if you just want to learn the terms, so if you look at it, like Yeshui heals a man in Jerusalem, like it's just using kind of more Hindu-related terms. It's just the Gospel of John. I'm going to go off topic real quick. It'd be good for you to get these because then you can just invite your Hindu friends to read this holy book. You don't even have to call it the Bible, just this holy book. In the very back of this, it has 10 days of Yeshu Bhakti. Yeshu we know is Jesus. Bhakti means like disciple, devotee, follower. It's a 10-day reading plan for them to read through the Gospel of John. And then it has blank pages, intentionally numbered blank pages. And then part of what it says is basically it gives them some inductive questions. Hey, what does this say about Prabhu Yeshu? What does this say about man? This is the key. This gives them the opportunity to experience God. It's, hey, for the next 10 days, pray and worship no other gods except Prabhu Yeshu. No other gods. Just 10 days. Just do it for me. And then what I want you to do is all of your prayers and worship and your requests, you write them down here. And then when we meet, let's see what Bhagwan does. Let's see what Prabhu Yeshu does. Let's see if he shows himself. And you get Anubhav of who he is. You experience who he is. So then you have to ask the question, is a Hindu moving closer to Jesus or further away from Jesus if they're reading the Gospel of John, praying and worshiping only him, and praying to him? And do you think that God just might answer their prayers? Give them the Anubhav and experience that they need. I'm voting on God on this one. Right? So now the question is, just for time's sake, what happens if, hey, maybe I have a gathering at your apartment or here, and hey, you cook some biryani, and you want to share the gospel with them? Well, stories are huge. Just tell stories. Get practice at telling Bible stories. You use the coconut to tell the passion story. So I'm going to make it simple. You practice the story, but what I want you to see is how to use the coconut. So let's say you just told a Jesus story, and you say, well, you get to the end of his life, he doesn't look like much on the outside. He was just like you and me, but he was God in the flesh. He was betrayed by his friends, and he was arrested, and he was under the authority of Pontius Pilate. And Pontius Pilate really wanted to let him go. They said, well, he hasn't done anything wrong. But the people kept calling to crucify him, to kill him. They spit on him. And they started shouting this guy's name, Barabbas, Barabbas, Barabbas. They wanted this guilty man to be set free so this innocent man could die. That's what happened. They took him, they seized him, they beat him. It says that they pulled his hair. They beat him to a pulp, almost like you couldn't even recognize him. It says that they pulled his beard, put a crown of thorns on him. He actually had to carry the crossbar of the cross that was meant for the guilty man. Remember, he was the innocent man. And just as he was going, they just kept beating him. Beating him. They get to Golgotha, this place where they murdered people. They laid him down on the crossbar, started driving nails into his hand. It's painful. And then to the next hand. The blood started to pour. But what they didn't know is they were spilling pure and holy blood. He hung there. They thought he was dead. They pierced his side. His body was broken, like this coconut. On the outside, he wasn't much to look at. But on the inside, he was pure. He had 100% perfect karma. And what he offers us is what's on the inside of him. Because the problem is, our insides look more like his outsides. We're dirty. We're filthy. We've not lived up to our dharma, our responsibility to the holy, perfect Creator God. This is a true story from the Word of God. And Prabhu Yeshu offers this to you. To you, to your community, to your family, so that you can escape samsara. His words are words of life. That's why we gather and we tell stories and we read his books. $2.68 at Walmart. All right, so I'm just going to give you some tips because I want you to be able to do this. You just tell the story, and then when we finish, somebody's going to get to do this. I brought two because someone gets to practice. Like if you're like, I have to do this, this is yours. This is yours to practice. So it takes a little getting used to of how hard to do it. It was pretty hard. It's not easy, but basically you're trying to scribe around. If you notice, I was rotating it. Pow, pow, pow. For great effect, if you can get to the point where they stab them in the side and then it comes out, that's great. But whenever it comes out, then you say, and then the blood flowed. Right? So the timing is just, that's it. And Hindus use coconuts in their worship. Like in India, they may be actually sacrificing things. Here, it's just coconuts. They're sacrificing coconuts. And so it's not weird for them from a religious perspective to see this. You're taking the gospel and you're putting it in their clothes. All we're doing is talking about Jesus, telling Jesus stories, but we're trying to make it in a way that relates to who they are.